It's Thursday night late, and we welcome you back to our live broadcast. We're going to be hopefully covering a very interesting topic on this broadcast, and I hope as well that this is something that you guys find beneficial in your own lives and in your own backgrounds. There's something which I think is quite important as well. Before we start, I wanted to ask all of you to share if you can. Hey Mark, how you doing? Share if you can. Get involved. Share it as soon as you can, so that other people can see it while we're still live. How you doing, Ali? Thanks for tuning in each week, Natalie. And as well, if you could share it or like it or whatever, that way more people can get involved and more people can see it. That would be fantastic. Nice to see you, Sophie. Bit of a wave, Daniela. Nice to see you, Jonathan, Natalie. So one of the things I'd like to do today is, aside from sharing as well, if you can comment, I'll try and take a look down there at the bottom and see if you agree with what I'm saying, or give me feedback in the middle so I know how you guys are relating to what we're talking about. I wanted to share one idea that I thought was mind-blowing for me, and I hope it is as well for you. Hey, Nina, Sylvia, Elliot, Josh, nice to see you guys. We're introduced to a character in this week's parasha who is the exact character, the exact person that every one of us needs to cut out of our lives. We don't need this person in our lives at all. And although all the time we're looking to bring people in our lives to increase love and brothership and connection and ve'ahavta l'recha kamocha and all that jazz, but this is the guy or the girl that you need to make sure that you stay as far away from as possible. His name is Bilam. In your life, he might have another name, or she might have another name, but they always do the same thing. Michael, nice to see you. This guy, Bilam, or whatever their name is in your life, has one unbelievable characteristic. He's capable of doing the same thing to anybody and everybody. And this one thing, it sucks the life out of everyone that they meet. Now, tell me if I'm down at the bottom. Tell me if I'm on this, or if this makes sense to you. Do you know, Bilam is hired to do one thing. He's not a military man. He's not a logistical man. He doesn't have any sort of strategy. He's not brought in here to give advice. He's not brought in here to increase or benefit anything. You know what he's brought in to do? He has one remit. His remit is, curse the Jews for me. You had one job, right? Curse the Jews for me. That's all he's asked them to do. Now, why has he asked them to curse the Jews? How come he's done that? And the answer to that goes to the key of Bilam's power, or to the people like that in our lives. What is their power over us? How come they're able to do this? And I want to see if you guys can kind of relate to this as much as it meant to me. You know, Bilam has prophecy. He's talking to God. But the question that always bothered me was, this is a horrible, horrible person. He wants to wipe out an entire people. And what is he given? He's given the gift of prophecy. How could that be? So the Talmud tells us the craziest thing. You know why he's given the gift of prophecy? Because God knows that he gave the Jewish people Moshe. And the nations of the world would say, you know what, if we would have had a prophet like Moshe, we would have done just as good as those Jewish people. So God says, okay, here's Bilam. But the problem is, he's not made it any better. Moshe is Moshe, the tzaddik, the beard, he's amazing. He goes up to the mountain, brings down the tablets, fantastic. What's Bilam doing? He's cursing people for money. He's a mercenary curser. What's going on? How could you compare the two? And by definition, then, you haven't given the non-Jews what the Jewish people got, have you? And the answer is incredible. Actually, God gave the Jewish people exactly the same thing as he gave the non-Jewish people. Because God doesn't give people good traits or bad traits. They aren't made good or made bad. They are given incredible potential. And how they choose to use it is entirely up to them. So when Moshe was born to the Jewish people, he developed into the person he became. Great, he became him. When Bilam is born and he develops into that person, based sometimes on the people that are around him, think about the people that are around him and what they're asking him to do, he becomes their leader. And sometimes we develop into what the people around us hope that we develop into. So Bilam becomes this person who's capable of cursing. But actually, the Talmud tells us one other thing. How come Bilam was always cursing? The answer is that Bilam's power was to tune in to the moment of anger. That when God was in a moment, so to speak, of judgment, he could come into that space and whisper the word of someone who was deserving of a punishment. And even though God is merciful, but in the moment of judgment, if someone is brought into court and the case is opened, he can get punished. So Bilam was capable of finding that exact moment. So what if someone wanted to benefit their business? The Midrash says, what would happen if the guy would come and he would say, I want a blessing? He'd have to go to Bilam. And you know, how would Bilam do anything? All he could do was access that moment of cursing. So what would Bilam do? Bilam would wait for the right moment, and then he would curse the competition. You see, if a guy wanted to marry a girl and someone else had stolen her heart, Bilam would curse the other guy, and then he would die, and then you could take over. Bilam's power, see, these people that you find in your life, their power is in their negativity. They're capable of looking into your life and finding that one little thing about you, which isn't perfect, and bringing it out and expressing it in such a way that that becomes who you are in the eyes of others, perhaps in their prayers, in the eyes of, sometimes worst of all, in the eyes of yourself. Look at Bilam's name. Bilam's name, read backwards, is Me'alev. He's someone who is capable of bringing out someone's embarrassment, even if it wasn't immediately evident. So he looks at the Jewish people and he can't find something to curse them for. So he says to Balak, he says, let's go to another mountain. Let me look at them from another angle. Let me see if I can find something else that's horrible about them that I could bring in to this and make them look bad. That I could bring them down, bring them to this place of negativity. Can I do that? And if I can do that, I can tear them down. And what does he do? He says a very strange line. He says, Matovu ohalecha Yaakov. We do this at weddings. Matovu ohalecha Yaakov. If you're Sephardi. If you're not, you probably sing it differently. But either way, Matovu ohalecha Yaakov. How great are your tents, O Jacob. Mishkenotecha Yisrael. Your dwelling places, O Israel. Now, if he's coming to curse him out, why is he saying this blessing? Part of the answer is because God says, whatever I want you to say, you're going to say. But a deeper part of the answer is that Bilam was still trying to get in a curse. And even though he couldn't see anything negative about them, he still tried to turn it around. And how did he do that? He tried to say that this. And I want to share with you an amazing story. There was a family who unfortunately had a mom, and the mom was unfortunately unwell. And slowly but surely she got sicker and sicker, and right before Passover, unfortunately, they got terrible news and she passes away. The father has a large family in Jerusalem. He's trying to make ends meet. He's trying to work to be able to get the food and all the clothes for the holiday, and the stress is immense. And every day he's coming home and they can see the bags under his eyes and the pain in his heart. And his daughters decide, you know what? We're going to make Passover just like our mom used to. We're going to clean the house, set out the kitchen, put the silver foil out, do everything exactly the way mom did. Cook the food, take out the old recipes, do everything exactly. And you know what, Dad? He's not even going to notice that things are not the way that they used to be. And they are working and working and working. And they do everything that they can. But you know what? It's not the same. It doesn't have a mother's touch, a mother's love, the secret ingredient in all of our chicken soups and all of our delicious food. It's missing. And you know what? They're trying, but they don't know exactly how to do everything. And then there's a knock at the door, and they're thinking to themselves, oh no, Dad is home and our secret is ruined. We're not yet done. It's not yet perfect. And there's a knock at the door, and one of the daughters comes, and she opens the door, and who is it? It's not the dad. It was the Belzer Rebbe, the rabbi in their whole neighborhood. He knocks on the door and they open the door. She says, Rebbe, what are you doing here? And he says, can I come in? And she says, sure, of course. And the kids let him in. And the rabbi is walking around the house, inspecting the house, shaking his head like this, looking at all of their work and preparing the house for Pesach to make sure that it's chametz free. And then finally he walks into the room, the kitchen, and the girls are hoping he doesn't notice, the little tears in the side, and maybe it's not as clean as it should be, as it used to be. And he looks around and gives a final nod of his head, and he turns to the girls and he says, Mamish azoivi da mame hot getan. Just exactly like your mother used to. It's perfect. What an unbelievable joy, a relief he brought to them. I can imagine the feelings that brought up in these kids to know that even though their job wasn't perfect, they did it as the mama did it. They did it as their mother did it. And the question is, was it perfect? It wasn't. But their mother put in everything that she could. And they put in everything that they could. So it was exactly the same. Bilam is pointing out, oh, look at your tents. They're not like Jacob's. They're not like the forefather Yaakov Avinu. You're not as special. You're not as holy. So even if you're pretty good, you know what? You could have been better. It could have been perfect, and you're not perfect. Yaakov is called Ishtam, this man of perfection. And Bilam is saying, you're not perfect. But without noticing, he says, Mishkenotecha Yisrael. Oh, your dwelling places, O Israel. You know, a tent is somewhere that you pitch when you're going for a little while, when you're going on tour, when you're going to camp out. But a dwelling place is where you live. And even though your tent, wherever you pitch it. But your dwelling place, what are you going to do? It can never stay clean. Moms know this better than most. You clean the house, and 3 minutes later, the kids come over, they're dumping everything on the ground. You clean it again, but people are living there. So even though a tent, you can pick it up, pack it up, put it down, and it looks perfect. But Mishkenotecha, where you live, you're going to make mistakes. Bilam was trying to say that they're not like their father. But really, it was mamish azoivi de mama, exactly like the mom, exactly like the dad. You see, when someone comes to you and they point out your flaws, and they try and deflate you, and you come up with an idea, and the only thing that someone has to say is to point out all the challenges and all the flaws that there are in your idea, get away. You don't need that person in your life. Bilam is called a man who is shetuma ayin. He can only see out of one eye. A little bit like what we said last week. But beyond that idea, do you know why he only sees with one eye? When you cover one eye, try it now. You could see everything exactly the same as when you open two eyes. You can see the room now. You can see the room now. You can see the door. You're outside. What's the difference? You know what the difference is? Try walking around covering one eye. It messes with your depth perception. You can't see where the things are in their proper context. Maybe their kitchen wasn't perfect, but they were a bunch of kids doing their best. If we are Am Yisrael, which means to fight, if we are fighting and attempting to give it our best, then that's exactly like our parents were. We are doing as best we can in the dwelling place that we are, in this place that we call life. This, my friends, is the way you choose people who you surround yourself with. Are they people who the only way they can feel better is by pushing other people underneath them so they can stand tall on the bodies of others? Get out. Be polite, but get out. Find the people that see everything in light, see everything positively. You know, there's a great story about Rav Levi Yitzchak of Berdichev. His great thing was always to try and see positively in every situation. And one of my favorite stories is he's walking on Yom Kippur, and as he's walking, he sees this guy, not a religious Jew. He's sitting there, he's smoking a cigarette on Yom Kippur. And the rabbi walks up to him and he's like, "My dear friend," he says, "I see that you're smoking. You must not realize that today is Yom Kippur." And the guy says, he blows a ring at the rabbi. And he says, no, I know it's Yom Kippur. And he says, well, if you know it's Yom Kippur, then clearly you don't know that you're not allowed to smoke on Yom Kippur. You would never do this otherwise. And the guy says, and he blows smoke through the original ring. And he says, no, I know that you're not allowed to smoke on Yom Kippur. And he carries on smoking. What's the rabbi going to say now? How is he going to judge him favorably? And he looks up at the heavens and he says, oh, master of the world, look down at how beautiful your children are. I gave him 2 outs, but look at how committed he is to telling the truth that he couldn't take them. And he took responsibility. When we want to, we can find positives. You know when we do that best? When we look in the mirror. We always see ourselves in the best light. We give every answer. We cover for ourselves. We make excuses. We're good people. I just made a mistake. It was just too hard to say no. I was tempted. I'm really a good guy. That's what we say about ourselves. Those are the types of people that you need to have around you. Not Bilams. Not people who try and move from mountaintop to mountaintop. Because if they can't see something wrong in the beginning, then they'll find another way. And again, I don't want you to say this now on the piece below, but I want you each to think of who that person is in your life. Sometimes it's a friend, sometimes it's a coworker. It hurts the most when it's family, I think. And when you find someone like that looking at you in that way, how do you deal with it? Because some people you can't cut out of your life. So what do you deal with it? How do you deal with it then? And I think that there's a very interesting answer to that. When someone around you is being that negative, that they only see your faults, and that's it. So you know what the Torah teaches us? The Torah teaches us to go to that person and to express to them how hurtful it is the way they are seeing you. And I'm not saying this so that you'll know it gets better, because some of you have already been through that and tried it and it didn't work. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. I told my mother-in-law, and all they see is my faults. What do I do now? But I want to tell you the secret answer to this is not that it makes it better, but if someone's power is the power of negativity, and you go to them and face them and explain that this is not how I see myself, even though you desperately want me to see me this way, you take away their sword. And you claim back the power over deciding who you are for yourself. That is an amazing moment. A moment where you recapture your peak and plant your flag. And they can carry on saying what they want. But now you know better. And they know that you know better. Rabotai, I want to wish you a wonderful Shabbat. I want to wish you to find people around you that are positive. And please forgive me if this is harsh. You know how you get people around you who are positive? You got to be positive. If you put out that vibe, if you express yourself that way, what happens? Those are the people that come to you. But if you love whinging, if you love moaning, you know who joins you? Moaners, whingers. So if that is our job, and this is our challenge, so today I'm going to ask you to try and find someone around you in your life, to walk directly up to them, and to be positive to a person you struggle being positive with. Or if you're positive with everybody, be a little bit more so. To raise and elevate this. You know, it's such a difficult world that we live in. And sometimes I think we focused on the horrible, worst case scenarios, people being killed, out in the middle of wherever, by terrorists and this. But I wanted to share one thing, and this is what I'll end with. Terrorists don't operate in a vacuum. That's not how it works. It starts with a story of negativity. It's their fault. They're the people. They stole. They took. These. And when you can create that situation, create a narrative of negativity around someone, then people can buy into that. And then the results can be catastrophic. But we often fail in this point. And that is that we don't watch the things that we see in our lives and decide based on those facts. Most often, we make up a story, whatever we want the story to be, and then we move and mold the facts to tell the story that we already want to hear. My competitor, he's a thief. That's how he's doing better than me in business. Because if it was an even playing field, there's no way he's smarter, better, dedicated than me. Has to be that he is a rotten thief. And then you see something, and you're not sure what it is, but you automatically bill it. You turn it into something horrible because that makes it so much easier to be me with my challenges, or my flaws, or my inadequacies. That's the power of Bilam. A man who could have been a Moshe Rabbeinu. He could have been a moral guide. He could have been a beacon of light. He could have led his people to great heights. And what did he do? He became a king of hatred. That was his destiny. And while we are sitting here learning about him, learning lessons of how not to live, who is he? He's nothing. People who are negative don't stand for anything. So when they go, nobody misses them. They fall asleep, disappear into the mists of time. You want to live forever? Make a difference. Be positive. Put out a beautiful mitzvah. Make someone feel amazing. The echo of that sound lasts a heck of a lot longer than a criticism. Shabbat Shalom. Hope to see you guys for a little bit of a later Havdalah. Should be roughly around 11. And I hope to see each and every one of you. I want to thank Ricky Marshall, Chelsea Harris, Motke Tannen, Ricky Marshall, Tzvi Geffen, David Fari, Joel Fox, Yossi Obermeister for all tuning in tonight. You guys are the best. You're the reason that we do this. Spread the joy. Make sure that people see it. Share it all over your walls. Peace out. Love you all.